Hi, this is Damien from Slotcar, and I'm here to talk about track and the different kinds of track that are available. A lot of people getting into slot cars may be confused by the brands and unsure of the differences between them and unsure of what's going to work best for them. Every house, every track, every user has different needs, so let's talk about the differences in the track that we sell. And those brands are Skeletric, Ninco and Carrera. Now, in our part of the world, the most known brand is Skeletric. It's an English company. They've been making slot cars and slot car track for many years, and a lot of us grew up with Skeletric and it's the name we're used to. So it's usually what's chosen in New Zealand. However, in the Spanish speaking part of the world, in Spain and other places, Ninco track is the preferred system. It's also a track that's usually used in commercial, large-scale commercial tracks or in serious club racing tracks. Carrera is a German company, and their track is made big enough so that you can race 1/24th scale cars on it, not just the 1/32nd scale cars that most people use that these tracks are suitable for. It can do both. And if you were living in Europe, Germany, France, those other parts of Europe other than the UK, this would be the sort of thing that you would have grown up with and that you'd be used to. Now, they all work basically the same way in that they fit together and they carry electrical current to power the cars, but there are some differences. So let's have a look at those. First off, the Skeletric and the Ninco track are reasonably soft plastic. They've got quite a bit of flex and movement in them. Comparatively, the Carrera track is a harder plastic. The Skeletric track does not have insulated rails, so between the steel rails there's a gap where the slot of the guide of the slot car runs. On the Ninco track and the Carrera track, this channel is lined with plastic either side. And the reason for this is it helps stop short circuits. So if a piece of braid wire comes loose and falls and shorts out your Skeletric track, you do have to go and search for it and maybe brush down the rails and find where it is. It happens very infrequently, but it can happen. With the other two, it really doesn't happen. The Skeletric track, if we line it up with Ninco, it's about 2 centimetres difference in the width. And if we line the Carrera up, there's about another 2 centimetres, almost another 2 centimetres extra width again. So like I said before, you can run 1/24th scale cars on it. It also means when your cars are sliding on corners, there's just that little bit more room that they've got before they dip a wheel over the edge and roll out of the slot. Now let's look at how they connect. The Skeletric track has tabs on the edge and in the centre, and there's male and female ends for the terminals. The tabs line up with holes in the edge of the track section, and with a push there's a couple of clicks, and those tabs have little locking tabs that have now locked into place, and that is firmly connected. So to take it apart, you reach underneath the track with your fingers to press against those locking tabs and pull it apart. It's pretty quick and easy to assemble and pull apart. The one thing I would say, compared to the other two, the electrical connection is probably not as reliable. So if you're taking it apart and putting it together a lot, this is probably, it'll start to get a little bit sloppy in these connections, and you can use a pair of pliers and crimp the female end to compress it a little bit so that you get good connection. But it's probably not quite as firm as particularly Ninco track that really does have a very secure electrical connection. Now Ninco has tabs as well, but it does join in a slightly different way. What we do is we put it together on a little bit of an angle and put the terminal pieces together, and then when you push it against the table or the floor or wherever you're assembling it, it clicks into place, and those 4 tabs have pushed down, and that is really secure. It's a really firm connection, which is possibly why it's used a lot in commercial tracks and clubs. It really is a good join. Now the Carrera track has plastic tabs and terminals the same. The terminals here are lighter, so you do need to be careful when you line it up that you don't get it off centre, because you can bend them out a little bit. You can bend them back, but you do need to be a little more careful with it. Now when you join up your Carrera track, it comes with red plastic track bolts that push in, and when you put the two pieces together, these track bolts just clip to join the two pieces, and you've got a firm connection there, like a really good connection. Personally, I quite like the track bolt system. To dismantle it, it's just a matter of putting your fingers in, moving those track bolts, and it comes apart really easy. Now the track surface is different on all three as well. The Scalextric track has a textured surface, like a asphalt road surface, but it is quite smooth. The Carrera track has a textured surface as well, quite smooth. Probably not as smooth as the Scalextric track, a little bit more bumpy, but they're soft bumps. Whereas the Ninco track, it is textured, but it's quite a lot more abrasive. It's quite a different surface, and it's made to give high grip, so that your tyres will really bite into it, and it is considerably different. You can probably hear my fingernails scraping against it. Okay, so that's the track pieces. And I was just going to say that I've got here, a full length straight in Scalextric, a half straight in Ninco, and a quarter straight in Carrera, but they are all available in different length straights. So especially the short straights are very handy to make things join up if you're just free laying a circuit or trying to make it fit into a certain space with different corners. Short straights quite often are just what you need to fill the gap. But if you can get away with using more long straights rather than having more joins, then you're best to use that. Now we'll look at curves as well, but just before we do that, I wanted to mention that Ninco also do, this is the off-road track. Now the surface of it is lumpy and bumpy. It's made to look like an off-road dirt road, and it is quite bumpy. So if you're doing a rally track, that's a really cool thing to have, and these are available in curves and straights. They also do an ice or snow track. Now this is also a little bit bumpy, but not as bumpy as the off-road track. It's just a little bit undulating. But the cool thing here is that these rails here, they're not magnetic like all the other steel rails and track. So the car's magnet isn't going to grip to these like it does. You can see it's starting to lift that track piece with the steel and the rails. That's not going to happen here. So the car doesn't have as much grip on the ice and snow. Very cool. So if you're doing a rally track, it's certainly worth considering. Now when it comes to curves, the curves are available in different radius. This is a Scalextric radius 1, and it fits immediately inside the radius 2, which fits immediately inside the radius 3, and that fits inside the radius 4. They do it this way so that if you want to have a 4-lane track, you can have those two pieces and have a wide open corner, a little bit tighter corner, or a really tight corner, and they will lay right beside each other. You can of course have a 6-lane track or an 8-lane track. The more lanes you have, the more room you need, and most people in their home tracks don't have so much room, so they usually just use 2 lanes. But if you've got a big garage or a shed that you're building a track in, you may want to do a 4-lane track. Now the Carrera and the Scalextric both have 4 different radius available. The Carrera, their tightest radius is similar to the second tightest radius in Scalextric, and then their widest one is wider still. Now Ninco is very much like Scalextric, but they have a wider radius again, which gives you a 5th option. And so if you're running an 8-lane track, for instance, you can have these 8 lanes with a very tight one here, or you can have these 8 lanes. Imagine there's another more open radius curve here. So, or you could run a 10-lane track if you had a lot of space. So it's good to have those options. All the tracks have borders and barriers available. The Carrera track, for instance, has a border like this which connects with the same track bolts we use to connect the track pieces, and it pushes in and holds on there. The Skelestric track has borders that just clip in. There are tabs on the underside that go underneath the track edge, and there's inside and outside borders. The idea with a border is that if you have a car corner in quickly, it's got room to slide the tail out on the corner, so it's not going to de-slot. On a tight corner, a tight radius, the inside wheel of the car will actually track inside. If we get a tight radius like this, the inside wheel will track on the inside, so you want to have borders on the inside if possible. You don't need borders, but they stop you retrieving cars that have come off quite as often. They help keep cars on track, they protect your cars, they make the racing more fun because there's less stops. Now these borders come with barriers. Personally, we take the barriers off. And the reason for that is that if you've got a barrier on the outside, a car in the outside lane can slide out to the limits and run around the barrier, and the barrier will hold it on the track so it won't fly off. This does take a bit of paint off your car, but the real reason we don't like it is it creates a disadvantage for the car in the inside lane who can't do that. Okay, so we prefer to run them without the barriers. Now Ninco, they've got borders that connect the same way, and their borders, they have inside and outside, and they connect the same, like I say. However, they're white with this red and white curb like this. And Ninco also have the borders, the barriers, that can clip onto the edge of the border or the edge of the track. These also clip onto Skelestric track if you wish, and they're available in grey or in the red and white. Another really cool thing that is available from Ninco is the safety fence. The safety fence can clip to all different brands of track. Well, anything that's got a edge underneath that you can clip under, and it gives you this nice tall fence that looks fantastic, and it's on a corner at the end of your track, on the edge of a table for instance. It'll stop cars from coming off onto the floor. So for us, we've got one really tight corner at the end of our straight, the radius 1 corner. The safety fence is great there because it's the one place the cars can launch themselves. So that's a really cool thing. Now the last thing I just wanted to show you was the Carrera Guardrail. Theirs comes like this in 3 metre lengths. It has clips which attach to the track edge, and you can place it around the corner like that. You can put it on the track edge or the border edge. Most sets come with it to go on the track edge. For the same reason, we tend to prefer using the borders rather than the barriers, because the cars can run around it and give that advantage to the car on the outside lane that the inside lane doesn't get. So there's the systems: Carrera, Ninco, Skelestric. They're all similar. They all have they're all nice quality. They're all reliable, and we stock as much of it, or we try and stock everything at all times. I hope that's been very helpful to you if you're trying to make a decision what to buy. They are all upgradable to digital later on. We don't carry the Ninco digital, but the Carrera and Skelestric, we carry the digital pieces, and if you were to make a track digital at a later stage, you can use all the same track that you have for your analog track and just add in the digital pieces as required. So there it is. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's helped.